All right, so earlier this afternoon, Jon Heyman in the New York Post, he wrote an article about Juan Soto and the Dodgers' potential interest in Juan Soto, and he also had a little bit of an interesting tidbit here, a note in this piece. Just a paragraph that mentioned the Padres, and I'll read it here. The Dodgers' overriding question on Soto is geographic. Many do see the Yankees and Mets holding an edge in the highly anticipated free agent derby, since there was a suggestion early in his tenure in San Diego that the Dominican star preferred to be on the East Coast, where he started with the Nationals in Washington. But while he may prefer the East, word is there was an excellent chance he was going to re sign with the Padres last summer before beloved Padres owner Peter Seidler took ill and passed away. They were said to be down the road, in quotes, in negotiations before Seidler's tragic turn. So I read this. I have a couple of thoughts when I read this. We can first start off with the likelihood of this actually being accurate, and then we can talk about something else. But the first part here, it's just hard for me to believe this. Like, if the Padres were down the road, usually when you're down the road on something, then it ends up getting done, right? If Peter Seidler told the Padres, like, we're down the road, Juan Soto wanted to be here, they were down the road, so I assume like they're in pretty close agreement on the amount of money, the amount of years, right? Because if you're not in agreement on that and the Padres aren't in the ballpark on that, then you're not down the road in the conversations, right? So I assume they were connected a little bit there if this was the case. And if this was the case, I assume that Peter Seidler would have said before he passed that get this Juan Soto deal done. And the Padres would have followed through with that. You don't, if an owner says, and I'm not saying this happened, I'm just saying if Peter Seidler did, then Juan Soto would still be a Padre. If this, report, they were down the road, so Juan Soto was in agreement that he wanted to be in San Diego long term, excellent chance is what it says here. Excellent chance he was going to re-sign with the Padres last summer. So last summer, when the Padres were underachieving, when things just weren't clicking, really, right? I have a hard time believing that this is actually accurate. That they were down the so Seidler's health is why Juan Soto's not a Padre long term, not because Juan Soto was asking for too much and didn't want to be here long term. Like, for me, it was this. Maybe Juan Soto wanted to be here long term, and the Padres wanted Soto here long term, but they already gave the big contract to Manny, Cronenworth, Bogarts, Tatis, Musgrove, Darvish. There was a bunch of guys that already had big contracts. And for them to give $500 million to Juan Soto, which is probably what his camp, because remember, he's represented by Scott Boras, his camp probably was asking for 500. I mean, he turned down 440 from the Nats, right? So he's probably asking for a lot. With the Padres situation that they were in, remember, they had lost the TV deal and they were on Padres TV, right? And they only got what? I could be wrong on this, but I think they only got 80% of that TV money. They ended up, and now this is talking about last summer, at that time last summer, but still in 2023, they don't get the postseason revenue. To me, it never felt like the Padres were down the road on anything with Juan Soto. We had the optimism when Soto came here to the Padres, but if I were to talk to people that cover this team day in, day out, like the Dennis Lins or the Kevin Aceys of the world, I know that Kevin has said, I think multiple times, that the Padres were not going to get a deal done with Juan Soto. And so we all know what happened. The Padres, they got back what they could, and without those guys, the Padres, they probably don't make the postseason in 2024, by the way. I thought A.J. Preller did a heck of a job with that deal. But yeah, just to suggest that there was an excellent chance he was going to re-sign, and then it now there's not an excellent chance because the chairman, the owner, passed away. I just don't really agree with that. Like, because the money is still the money, right? I don't know. I just don't agree with that. Now, the second thing, which I'd be more pissed off about if this is what is happening, is people are using Peter Seidler to already start these Juan Soto negotiations. And they're already trying to up Juan Soto's offer. If someone from Boris's camp, wherever Jon Heyman is getting this info, if it's not from the Padres, I have a problem with it. And I know, John, this isn't necessarily like on Jon Heyman. It's, I don't like that Peter Seidler is being mentioned in this way. That before he passed away, they were down the road and there was an excellent chance that he was coming back and being here long term. And then when Peter passes away, now there wasn't an excellent chance. And possibly using the Padres to get the Dodgers to get into this. Like and I'm saying, what I'm saying here is using the Padres, meaning not that using the Padres as they're competing for Juan Soto, in the offseason, but saying like, hey, the Padres are down the road. The Dodgers, hey, that means he's okay with playing in Southern California. Come after him. Come get him. You're doing that through the Padres and mentioning Peter Seidler in it. That's where, for me, I just don't like that. It just doesn't feel right. Again, I'm not like accusing Jon Heyman of doing something wrong here. If he hears information, like he's a reporter, he, has to get views on articles and get information out there that the public will talk about, like I'm talking about right now. But that just doesn't sit right with me. So yeah, overall, I just don't really agree with what is being said here about the Padres having an excellent chance, even last summer before they missed the playoffs. There was nothing ever close. There was no reporting about the Padres being close. Even when AJ Preller talked, I never got like any thought of like, oh, maybe something will happen. It was always, it felt like it was just AJ saying, yeah, we'll have the talks. We'll see. I never felt optimistic about that when hearing from him or hearing from anyone, really. So that's what I've got on that. I think Soto's going to sign with one of the New York teams. I don't think the Dodgers are going to get him, but this could be an attempt here to get the Dodgers excited about Soto maybe being willing to play on the West Coast. And they mentioned the Padres to help do that.